Why are young men in Kenya so angry at women? A Manosphere crisis unfolds by Faith Onair for Nation Media Group. So I recently bumped into this article. Let's talk about it. Introduction. We live in a world that encourages everyone to weigh in on everything. Not too long ago, two planes crashed mid-air in the US, and people online who don't know the first thing about flying planes had thoughts about what the pilots should have done to avoid the crash. Everywhere, we're encouraged to weigh in on things we have no business talking about, things we don't know the first thing about. One area that everybody thinks they can speak on without ever cracking a single book open is on gender. All things pertaining to gender and associated violence are fair game because everyone has genitals, I guess. Faith Onair, a writer with Nation Media Group, has submitted herself as tribute to show us how it's done, sharing opinions backed by nothing but vibes and anecdotes. Let's go through her piece by piece. The article is titled, Why Are Young Men in Kenya So Angry at Women? A Manosphere Crisis Unfolds. Why do I say manosphere like that? A Manosphere Crisis unfolds. It's not funny. Okay. The article is titled, Why Are Young Men in Kenya So Angry at Women? A Manosphere Crisis Unfolds. I already wanted to scream. Men do not kill women because they're angry. They kill women because they can. They kill women because we live in a society that says in word and in deed that they can do it and get away with it. When white police officers disproportionately target and kill black men in the United States, nobody asks why they're so angry. They do it because black lives are devalued. Black lives don't matter. As a result, with the power given to them by the uniform, they can kill black people and get away with it. It's the same thing with men everywhere. This is not a Kenyan problem. There's a hierarchy courtesy of patriarchy, and women are at the bottom of it. Men are at the top of it. They have the power, the control, the right to use violence and aggression. And if they kill women, that's okay. Women's lives don't matter. That's why men kill women, because they live in a society that says they can. The absence of consequences for violence and abuse, combined with our ever-ready victim blaming, is as good as carte blanche to go ahead and kill women. And if we're going to talk about anger and the ways social media reflects deeply held beliefs, women are livid. They're pissed as a mother. I, for one, am burning with rage. The rise in women openly identifying as misandrists is evidence of that communal fury. Yet not a single woman has been found walking around with dismembered male body parts in a bag. Women are not going around daily adding to the numbers of slain men. Anger and hatred are not enough to explain men's actions. Women are angry as fuck, and men continue to walk around unharmed, living their lives without fear. Men kill women because society says they can. After that infuriating title comes this brief summary of what to expect from the article. Brace yourself. If you thought the title was infuriating, Faith Onair is here to tell you, you ain't seen nothing yet. What you need to know. I used to dismiss the boy child left behind argument until confronted with Kenya's femicide crisis. The Manosphere has become a dangerous co-parent, with young men aged 18 to 35 making up 66% of femicide perpetrators and even cheering on killers in social media comments. We urgently need a movement to counter this digital radicalization of young men. Okay, the girl child is too empowered. I really did think I'd seen the last of the boy child idiocy. I don't think of myself as the kind prone to self-deception, but there you have it. I somehow convinced myself that the era of adult women using the phrase boy child was behind us. I was wrong. That's the last thing I'll be wrong about, though, at least in this article. I used to rebuff arguments that the girl child was too empowered and that the boy child has been left behind. But lately, I've been reconsidering this position. A recent conversation with a mother gave me pause. She asked me whether I had written any children's books with boys as main characters at a book fair where I was selling my children's books, and had this to say when I answered no. Please think about writing one I'm a mother of boys and I need them to see themselves. We have too many girl-focused products and services, and as a mother, I'm worried about whether my sons will survive in the world without me to validate them, she said. Hey, Faith O'Neill tells us that she too used to rebuff the talk about the girl child being too empowered and the boy child being left behind. For centuries, society has valued boys, given them access to opportunities and resources, while deliberately and violently excluding girls, designing systems to keep women in their place. On one hand, we have centuries of women and girls being told that boys are better, preferred, that there's something inherently wrong with being a girl. Something that makes women defective in a way that even the gods recognize. And then on the other hand, we have a few decades of telling women that they're not merely defective men, that they too can shape their lives, that they too deserve access to every opportunity that is available in this world. A few decades of rebalancing the scales is enough to make men spiral and lose their collective grip on reality? What losers? What pathetic, shameless losers? Spiral so much that the only response, according to Grace O'Neill, that makes sense to them is brutally murdering women and girls. Centuries of exclusion and only decades of redress has men losing their collective shit. Grown women out here telling us that their boy child is being left behind. An embarrassment, all of you. Poverty. The girl child is too empowered. Okay, let's dance. Approximately 73% of Kenya's population live in rural areas, with only 27% living in urban areas. We know that poverty disproportionately affects people in rural areas, and women and girls in particular. The feminization of poverty is a term used to refer to the phenomenon that women and children are disproportionately represented among the world's poor and more likely than men to live below the poverty line. Poverty is not gender neutral. Housework. Let's talk about housework. Globally, girls between 5 and 14 years old spend 40% more time on unpaid household chores than boys their age. The burden of domestic work is disproportionately borne by girls. It begins in childhood and never ends. Women and girls in developing countries spend up to 90% of their time performing domestic tasks like water collection, which is physically taxing and risks causing physical harm. Girls also disproportionately handle childcare, cleaning, cooking, laundry, fetching firewood, and general home maintenance. Research shows that children who spend many hours taking care of household responsibilities are less likely to attend school, which perpetuates the cycle of poverty. All this time spent on this work that boys are exempted from takes away from the time they could have spent on their education, personal development, and even playing, damn it. Education. Less than 25% of women in rural Kenya who have attended school completed high school or secondary education. One of the key reasons is particularly when resources are limited, boys are given preference. 1 in 5 adolescent girls have not completed primary school, and majority of them reside in rural areas. Approximately half of the women aged between 25 and 49 had their first child before they were 21 years old. Roughly 1 million Kenyan girls miss out on education every month because they are unable to afford menstrual products. Approximately 1 in 4 Kenyan girls were married or in a union before they turned 18. Let's talk about gender-based violence. Menstrual poverty is linked to gender-based violence, with some girls being forced to engage in transactional sex in order to secure sanitary products. Keep in mind that 65% of Kenyan women and girls are unable to afford basic sanitary pads. It's not just young, vulnerable girls who are at risk of men's exploitation and violence. 41% of women and girls who have ever had a partner have experienced economic, emotional, physical, or sexual violence. This remains one of the most underreported crimes with low conviction rates to match. Wealth and power. We've talked about housework, school, gender-based violence, period poverty. Let's talk about wealth and power. People see a handful of women driving big cars and conclude that girls are too empowered. As of 2024, only 23.3% of the seats in parliament were held by women. According to the 2017 World Economic Forum report, a Kenyan woman is paid 55 shillings for every 100 shillings that a man earns for doing the same job. The gender pay gap in Kenya has in fact been rising. It has risen from 31% in 2019 to 43 and 46% in 2020 and 2021 respectively. Not to be left behind, Equity Bank exceeded expectations in 2023 by revealing that they pay their female workers 52% less than their male counterparts in the same positions. So there's that. Let's close with land, the sort of wealth that gets Kenyans tingling with excitement. Only 6% of women in Kenya hold a title to a piece of land, and yet 96% of women in rural areas work on those farms. They are the primary workers in farms they have no say over and land they do not own. We live in a highly and serious country, and so I can find no data about car ownership by gender, so I'll have to rely on this general statement, courtesy of Science Direct. Car ownership is gendered, with more men than women owning cars. This is evidently proven true in Kenya, yet a handful of women driving big cars has men convinced that they're falling behind. Inshallah, we live to see you truly fall behind. Pathetic whinging whistles. Like in many other countries, rural women in Kenya continue working as unpaid family workers, and the men hold the power because of patriarchal land ownership systems. Women in urban areas, like women everywhere in the world, continue to bear the burden of childcare, housework, and even caring for elderly or ill relatives. All this while daily living with the risk of male violence, particularly intimate partner violence, which is especially common. There's a reason why home is the most dangerous place in the world for women. So, Faith on Air, I am once again asking, is there excess girl-child empowerment in the room with us? I used to rebuff arguments that the girl child was too empowered and that the boy child has been left behind. But lately, I've been reconsidering this position. A recent conversation with a mother gave me pause. She asked me whether I had written any children's books with boys as main characters at a book fair where I was selling my children's books, and had this to say when I answered no. Please think about writing one. I'm a mother of boys, and I need them to see themselves. We have too many girl-focused products and services, and as a mother, I'm worried about whether my sons will survive in this world without me to validate them, she said. Too many stories centering girls. Okay, that boy mom, TM, tells Faith on Air that there are too many stories that center girls, and so she's wondering whether her sons will survive in this world without her to validate them. Sometimes you wonder if people can even hear the things they're saying. My God, there are too many girl-focused products and stories. Are the girl-focused products in the room with us? Let's talk about just one book that all Kenyan children are forced to interact with at one point or another, the Bible. What is the gender of pretty much every protagonist in that book? Okay, let's suppose it's true that so many stories feature girls as the main characters. So what? Why is it that we refuse to socialize boys to see themselves in female characters? Girls and women have for centuries engaged with material that centers men and been moved by it, valued and treasured it. Why is it so difficult for boys to value stories that center women? Why do you refuse to teach your little boys to see themselves in the stories of little girls? That's a you problem, babe. And this refusal to teach young boys to value and treasure the stories of little girls is linked to the devaluing of all things feminine, which is linked to the murder of women and girls. You and that boy mom, TM, need to reckon with that. You are part of the problem, talking about validating her boys as if all of society is not geared at validating boys. And also, validating them in what? In your patriarchal views and misogyny that says they can't see themselves in girls' stories? Then let them not be validated. By God, let them not be validated. The fact that you can start with a problem primarily affecting girls and women and then turn that into we should be concerned about the boy child who, is being left behind is repulsive, and it exposes your shallow concerns. You sound like those women who think that feminism needs to be palatable to men. Oh, go too far and now we are pushing away men. There is no liberation movement which is palatable to the oppressors and the beneficiaries of oppression. Men are the primary beneficiaries of patriarchal oppression, and women's liberation will forever be met with resistance from them. The day men support women's methods and strategies is the day we know we have lost our way. Men's rage and boiling misogyny online is evidence that we're on the right track. We're not here to make friends and be nice to men. Fuck that. We're here to pull down the patriarchy and all other systems of oppression that rely on hierarchies and exploitation. That's what we're here to do. I'm not exactly sure what you're about, Faith, but that's what the rest of us are doing. Please think about writing one. I'm a mother of boys, and I need them to see themselves. We have too many girl-focused products and services, and as a mother, I'm worried about whether my sons will survive in this world without me to validate them, she said. We agreed that the responsibility of bringing up boys to become men of substance does not belong to parents alone. Unfortunately, in this digital age, co-parents and mentors exist in the manosphere. Manosphere is widely defined as media focused especially on hegemonic masculinity, which is characterized by their promotion of misogynistic beliefs and sexist rhetoric. Men of substance. Bringing up boys to become men of substance. I'm a level with you, Faith. I don't know what you mean by men of substance, and frankly, I don't care. You know what I want people raising boys to focus on? Raising good people. Safe people, kind people, safe people again. I want them to focus on raising people who will grow up to be adults, who care about people besides themselves, who value community and relationship. Adults who do not value things like aggression and violence and instead value harmony and cooperation. That's what I want people raising children to focus on. I want them to focus on raising people who will become adults, who lead with care and compassion for others, who value building together, not competing and coming out on top. That's what I want them to focus on doing. Raising people who will be safe, caring adults. Again, I say safe. If I'm being honest, Faith, you know what I really want to see? The abolition of gender. Gender and the nuclear family, I want it all gone. The fact that 66% of perpetrators in recorded femicide cases in Kenya are young men aged 18 to 35, according to Africa Data Hub, should have us all worrying about their role models and sources of information about manhood. I hope there's an existing movement rising to counter the effects of Manosphere. Otherwise, the killings won't stop. What will stop the killings? The violence, the killings will not stop until we take down this oppressive system, until we bring patriarchy to its knees. That's the day it will stop. Men will continue to feel like they're being left behind because equality feels like oppression when you're accustomed to privilege. I hate it that it sounded like I was even marginally concerned about men with that last line. I do not care about men or their fragile little feelings, not even a little bit. If women and girls being freed from oppression feels to them like being left behind, then inshallah we leave them all behind to be confined in the dustbin of history. Good riddance. From here on out, we move forward only with those committed to destroying all forms of oppression on the basis of race, gender, class, sexuality, all of it. Pick a side and prepare to live with the consequences, because the feminists are winning this one, Faith. Tell the rest of your concerned for the boy child friends, we are winning this one. This revived concern for the boy child is evidence that we are winning and will keep winning, Faith. Tell the others. Tell the others. Conclusion. In closing, far be it from me to suggest that only experts get to speak about things that affect all our individual lived experiences. However, it behooves us to look to people who spend their lives engaging with the subject areas, and if nothing else, give the research a fair reading. You do not have to agree with it, but for the love of God, read something before pronouncing yourself authoritatively on an area. Just read something, damn it. P.S. I cannot tell you